Yo, welcome to Digital Interactions on the Hacking Your Health podcast with your host, Ben Canning. Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Digital Interactions. Today, we are joined by our first of many Jasons. Jason is 33 weeks in?
I think
34?
so.
34 weeks in?
34 today.
I'm excited for this conversation because you have an extensive training career behind you, training history. So I think there'll be a lot that you can share from your own experiences. We have been on a journey, and I'm going to give you the credit right away that I have always given you, because from the day and the moment that I introduced you to everybody within the Discord channel, you have been all in. And I have noticed over time with people that I work with, the people who commit to showing up in the calls, doing their check-ins, sharing the struggles, sharing their wins, and actually just being a part of the thing are the ones that get the most from it on the other side. And I've always noticed that about you, and your willingness to share. Even if I threw you under the bus on the calls right away, you're willing to just get in the mix with everybody. So thanks for that, number one. I'm going to pass it over to you to sort of talk about your journey over the past 34 weeks.
All right. Well, thanks, Ben. I mean, I've said this before to you. The environment makes it, it's just an easy environment to get in and speak and share about. And the way that your style is really kind of clicked with me from listening to the podcast forever before I finally called you, to like just joining and being like, all right, this is something I can do. So yeah. Gosh, the last like 34 weeks have been amazing for me. Coming from a guy that went to the gym and just kind of figured it out on his own for many decades and just went in and for decades I did one muscle group a week, right? Which we, quaintly call bro lifting. So, I'm going to hit chest once a week, and I would destroy those muscle groups, right? Need like days to get done. But one of the first things I thought is like, I'm putting in all this work and I'm here and I just am not getting the results that I would expect. Or that I felt like, I don't know how to put it. I don't say deserve, but like, I'm like, man, there has to be something I'm missing. It's just not adding up the way that I would think it would be. And I was excited to start. And then I think from that very first training block, right, I was like, this is okay. I don't know about this. I'm sure all your clients say this, like, okay, this is very different. This is full body. Okay. And time stuff. And like, I had no idea what I was doing. So that was very cool. That was very cool just to go through it. I would say first couple of weeks, my feedback was like, this is very odd in the fact that I don't know my weights. I feel uncomfortable. I'm not even sure this is doing anything. And you were like, no. For me, and you gave your experience, which was helpful, it takes me 3 weeks, like 3 weeks to do it, kind of get comfortable. And that was pretty much right on. I think after 3 weeks, I was like, okay, I can feel this. I can start to get the most out of that type of lifting style for my first block, right? And so that now I just, I'm excited. Like, part of me always wants a new block. I'm sure you're the same way. Part of me wants to stay on the same block for longer, so I'm divided on that.
I think I was excited, and I continue to be excited. Like we spoke about this when we did our last training block review. I was excited at the start to give you something that I knew would be completely different, because I knew it would like throw you completely out of your comfort zone. Like it was a completely different way of training. It was a completely different approach, and even like you said, the understanding of where you're at. For like where you're at in this style of training that you were doing versus going into this new style, like you pretty much had to unlearn everything in terms of how you moved, the timing of everything, what weights you did. So I was excited for that. And like I said, I now know, like I think we're maybe three blocks in. I now know that I can pretty much throw anything at you and you'll just show up and get the fucking work done.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to just do it because it's on there and think like, okay, I wouldn't you gave me single leg glute bridges. I was like, I would never do this, but let's go. Let's give this a shot. And
this isn't in the bro split. Like I don't see this in the bro science dictionary.
I don't remember doing this. Yeah. Or any of the like. I have never touched the high rep stuff, as important as it is. Like I have faked it and gone, I'm going to go light this week. I'm going to do it, and just 2 exercises in, I would end up seeing people and be like, they're going to think I only lift this much, so I'm going to go heavy on this, or for me, heavy. And like, now I'm just, so my son is coming with me. He's been coming with me for like 5 months now, Ben. And like, I can see the same thing in him being like, it's not about the weight. Like, I'm not thinking about the weight as much as I'm thinking about the lift. And that was never the case. It was always like how much I could get up. And you guys talked about it on the podcast, right? This week, just when I was going fast, you can rep out 10 pretty heavy because you're just not you're just pushing and like, okay, good. And the minute you slow that down, it's just so different. And I feel like my body structure is different, Ben, and I'm sure you know this. Like, everything is stronger. Like, would I say like, okay, are you lifting as much weight? I'm like, but everything is solid and feels good and everything. I don't feel like I'm going to injure myself, and I'm absolutely blasting the muscles by the time I'm done.
There's definitely there's a difference in shifting weight and actually being in control of the movement. And the way that I would phrase it is, you want to get strong in the muscle and not the movement. So as you're saying, like, you can rep out on a bench press, for example, and pretty much use momentum for the majority of it. Like, yes, you do still have to do the work, but like, if you pretty much drop the bar, you can bounce it a little bit on your chest to give you the bit that you need to sort of get past the bit where it's difficult. But whenever you actively are using tempo and you have to be in control the entire time, it's humbling to say the least.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a longevity play, because, like, number one, while it's cool to lift heavy weights, and I'm never going to say that it's not, like, I will always stand by that. To me, it's much cooler to actually be able to lift them and move them in control. And if you think about the stress that a heavy weight puts on your body, you want to be able to imagine that your muscles are getting strong with it, and you're not just using momentum, but also the in between bits, like your tendons and how your fucking muscles are connected to the body. Like, there's so much more to it than just eating the weight up.
Yeah, and that always bothered me, or at least the last couple of years, right? So a little older, at 48, I always had tennis elbow. I always had shoulder issues. Like, everything just kind of hurt, and I just went with it and was like, it's fine. Like, what are you going to do? I'm not going to quit. So even though I still experience that sometimes with these, it's far less, and it feels different. Like, everything has that ability to grow slowly, like the tendons and the joints. And I don't know. It just I feel solid and like much better doing this.
Good. So glad to hear it. So you mentioned that your son has been going to the gym. How is that for you? How is that as an experience, or what's that feeling like?
It is a gift, I think. It's amazing to get to spend that time with him and to see him excited. And I didn't think he would go, because I go, once I started this new job I'm in now, the only time I had was get up at 5 and go. So I was going for a while. And then he was just like, hey, can I come with you? I really want to start to do this. I can see the difference in you, and I want to be there. And I honestly thought, okay, sure, once, twice, maybe. He's going to get up at 5 and be like, F this. This is not, and I don't put pressure on him. It's just, hey, if you want to go, you said this, right? The bus is leaving. We're going, with or without you. So I'd love to have you. And then, in all honesty, it was, I had a little bit, when he first joined me, I listened to audiobooks in the morning, so I'll share a little bit. So just dumb things we do as human beings. And I was like, man, I'm not going to be able to listen to all these books. That's like an hour in the morning. I'm going to miss this. Think of how dumb that is. And like the time I have with him now every morning is probably the most special time to me of the whole day, to get up and be at the gym with him and just watch him grow and watch him go through all the mistakes I made. Like yesterday, he was doing row and he's like, I was like, good set, man. Look good. He's like, I only got 6 and I only got it at 70. And last time I did like 90. And I'm like, that's how it goes. Like, that's just today. Like, you're fine. You're going to have days where you lift heavy and low. And at the end of the day, it's not about the weight. It's about, did you go to failure? Yeah. Okay. Great set. But he was still pissed. And I was like, I would have been pissed at 15 too.
Yeah. But I think the coolest thing about this, and genuinely I hear this quite a lot, like whenever I have discovery calls with people, like one of the most frequent comments that people make is they for their kids in some way, shape, or form, like whether it's to inspire them, motivate them, show the way to live here longer, like whatever it is, there's something around kids. We say I fully understand. Like, I have a daughter, and my thing for her is I want to be big enough and scary enough that whenever she starts bringing boys back to the house, that they just run the other direction. So there's always something around. I think so cool to not force it on him, and for him to actually come to you, see the difference. So just by you doing the thing for you, you've inspired him and motivated him that he wants to do that. And you've heard me joke with Dave about this before, like his kids in the gym and whatever else. I'm like, man, if I had started fucking training when I was 15, and you know how fucking big I would be now? Like, I would be fucking enormous. So it's cool. It's cool for me to see that again, like me giving you the tools that you can then pass on to him and then sort of anybody else around you, because I know there's a crew of you in the gym.
Yeah, and I mean, I've just discovered that recently. I think like a lot of men, I guess I think women do it too. I was very controlling younger. I thought I could dictate like what my kids would do or what my wife's behavior was, or like just things in my life. Like I have some control over this, Ben, and you do to a state. But you know this. Working through being an alcoholic and addiction, and like helping other people do that, you learn there's really nothing you can control in their lives outside of showing up and trying to just show them a good example. And yeah, that didn't come easy. I still struggle with that every day. You should do this, or hey, how about, instead of being like, hey, if I live this example, people get really curious. People start asking you, and I know they do for you. And I've heard like Thomas talk about this too. People would just start coming up to you and be like, hey, what are you doing? I see this change, or like these things you're doing. And then I think it's okay to start to kind of talk about it. But if you're going around kind of preaching that, it's just annoying. And they don't want to listen. They don't want to hear it at all. So
agree. And it's the best way to do it is just do it for yourself and know that there will be people that you will motivate and inspire just by doing the thing. Whereas I know it's in my personality that if someone came to me and just give me unsolicited advice on someone, immediately I'm just ignoring them. Like, I'm just fuck off. Like, I'm not interested in having the conversation with you. So just by doing it and living it for yourself. And as you said, you do it in one area of your life in terms of navigating being sober and sort of inspiring people and helping people through that. Like, so there's no reason that you can't do it in other aspects and areas of your life as well.
Yeah, it's been, and for the fitness part for my son, I did want to say, like, he's now getting into supplements too. We were creating supplement monsters, I think. But it's pretty funny. He asked me, like, he's like, what is that? I was like, it's Athletic Greens. He goes, can I take that? I'm like, no, it's too expensive. Like, you got to get a job for that one.
You can get a job.
You can have the fish oil, the vitamin D. Like, this stuff is, but the stuff that is off the table for now.
Cool. Talk to me then, and maybe this is a little bit in line with it, but I'll not put words in your mouth. Over the past 34 weeks, what is the most unexpected thing that you have gained?
Definitely the mental aspects. I think, like, probably most of the clients that you get, I'm assuming here, Ben, you come in and think, all right, I'm going to do this. I mean, what did I tell you? You go, what are you here for? Schedule. I just want you to, just programming. That's it. That's all I need. I got everything else taken control. And if I could just get the right programming, then some magic is going to happen, right? I signed up for the 555 Club and did Sean's thing. It was like, hey, I already meditate and do this stuff. This is, okay, what a cool little addition in here. And then meeting him and going through like the sessions, like the experts call you've added, or I've already told you this, the value I'm getting out of this is 10x what I've signed up for and paid for, right? Like, I just keep thinking, like, this is a dream. This is too much. Kara, Lorena, the whole works has been fantastic. So I'd say the mental aspect. On top of that, just the group's willingness to share, right? So that I can share things that I fear or worry about, and other people will be like, me too, right? I feel that way. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm not a crazy person. There's other people out here.
I'm not a crazy person, or else I'm just in a room with loads of crazy people.
It could just be we found it. A bunch of crazy people found each other. But I mean, it's kind of the new wave of, like, I see it more and more. And I can only speak for men, right? For myself, just being vulnerable and opening up. And like, I started therapy this year too, on top of this, and that was a big deal. And just walking around kind of thinking, I don't really know what I'm doing, even though I feel pretty good about showing up. And you guys have said this and trying to say, hey, wait a sec, I think you're doing okay. I don't see that all the time. But yeah, so I gave you a bunch of reasons there, but I would say that the whole human part of, I mean, you said it again on a pod, you're more of a life coach to me. The training is great, and I trust that, and that is just absolutely 100% solid. And I think I mean, I know that I'm doing the right stuff in the gym. But the camaraderie in the group within Hacks and what you bring, at least for me, is, I mean, I look forward to both those calls every week. It's like work. They're like, "Can we book here?" I'm like, "No." Mm-mm. Well, we have this. I'm like, "Yeah, sorry, it's not negotiable.
Not available,
I need to be
non-negotiable.
here."
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand. It's just I'm like, "No, you don't like." I just feel like it sets me up in a really good place for work too, mentally, and just to be ready and like, I don't know, just share. So the mental aspect of it by far was the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah. I think that, like you said, people come because they think they need a meal plan or they think they need a training program or whatever. And some people do, and that's okay. But that's not necessarily the coach that I want to be, because I know, and again, like, I guess to get into it, like, the reason that I brought Sean in is because I understand the service he provides, and it's something that I benefit from and that I use. The reason that I brought Kiara in is because I work with her in a one-to-one capacity. So she's someone that I trust, and I know that you guys will benefit from that as well. I haven't leaned in too much on the mobility stuff with Lorena yet, because she sent me through the assessment today, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do any of these things. But again, I know from my own experience of, I've been working fully remote, like online coach since the start of the pandemic. So I guess coming up to 4 years, and I can see the issues that I'm starting to face in my body from sitting at a desk all day. And I know everybody, the majority of people that I work with, have sat at a desk for much longer than I have. So it's like, if I start to see that in myself, I know that you guys will benefit from having an external coach who is not me, because I am not here claiming to be mobile in any way, shape, or form. So bringing an expert in to discuss and share those things, and having an additional resource has been huge for me. And in terms of the group and the willingness to share, like, in fact, from all these things, and again, I'll give you the credit for this, whether you want it or not, you will only get those things from your willingness to share within that. Like, you get out of it what you put in. And as I said at the start, like, you have gone all in right from the start. So yes, well, it's great to have that space, and I'm really grateful that you're getting all these things from it. You're only getting them from the stuff that you put in on the other side. So do definitely give yourself credit for that.
Yeah, I'm trying.
You are, and I've noticed it. I've noticed it. It's not gone unnoticed, so don't worry about that. But yeah, the calls, I mean, a lot, as we said before, like, before I hit record, like, it's funny because essentially I spent all of my days on Zoom talking to people, and then when it comes to talking to, like, not my crew, I'm like, lose my shit as if I don't know fucking what my name is or where I am or what's going on. But yeah, I'm grateful to be able to provide the space, whether it's on the calls on a weekly basis or in person. Which leads me to the Phoenix event. Just talk us through your experience on that and how that was for you.
That was exciting. I was very excited to go. I kept telling people, I'm going to lifting camp, man. Like, all the guys at the gym were like, what are you doing? Like, that's crazy. And they know all the things where you already know this. I guess I should say I go and I walk 2 miles every night at the gym, and then I go in the steam room for about an hour. We go cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, back and forth. But this group of guys we call the steam team, are very special to me. Men should have more friends. I think we should share more. Okay, so back to the Phoenix event. So they were excited, and I was excited coming up to it. I was very nervous, like, of what it would be, because you kept saying surprises, and I was like, all right, I'm not sure what this is going to be. And then just getting there, and it was so cool. I mean, there were so many people. There was a lot of people there. And so this was my first experience, and I told you, being sober at an event like this. And so it was a little difficult to navigate, but that's on me. I'm new at this. I would go to an event like that, and I would just drink the whole time. So, and not like normal. I mean, I thought everyone there was fine that drank, like, they could handle it. I wouldn't. I would have had 15 margaritas, and, like, it would have just been a shit show, and I would have been super hungover the next days and just hurting the whole time. A different experience. So that was cool. Yeah, totally shocking. Like, I did not ever dream of a day where I'd lift for like 4 hours in a day. but that was even possible, right? You hear that's like Arnold, or those guys would go twice a day, and he'd do reps of 40, and what is he doing? So again, just all in, I just was like, all right, I guess we're doing this. We're going to do 2 hours. We're going to go to lunch, and you're like, all right, we're back, and you're going to do this, and you're like, what? Okay, I'm going to try it. But we made it. I think everybody made it. I felt great after that, and then just a whole new perspective on what was possible. I wouldn't train like that every day. My son asked me that. He's like, well, why don't we just train for 4 hours? I'm like, well, you need a lot of recovery, and I wouldn't suggest that either. But it was cool to push past what I thought those were, and then to see the camaraderie, right? So I've told Marcus in person because he was in my group, so that's why I can mention it. The change in him is staggering from when he first started, and he seemed pretty down and just like, I can't do this, and I mean, he is just, man, he's on fire. I told him there, you are so inspiring to me, watching you lift and do this stuff. I got to push harder too. And Tom was in my group. I mean, watching those guys work and be like, okay, cool. We're all pushing each other, and like you said, there's that group dynamic is shocking. When you and Ben came over on that hack squat, I was like, motherfucker. 5 more, you got this. I'm like, I don't have 5. Okay. And I did. But I really did. I mean, that's the worst one to get stuck on. I'm sure that's why you guys pick that one for most people. You're like, hack squat, here we go. It's probably your favorite to.
Yeah, showtime.
Yeah. And you guys said it on the podcast today too, right? My seconds are certainly faster than they are anywhere else, but on the hack squat, I'm like, that was 8 seconds, right? Yeah, okay. Or 3 seconds, but
yeah. I'll agree with this, and I assume Marcus will listen, but I'll speak specifically about him. But this is something I've seen time and time again. One of my favorite things about the event is seeing the change in people happen almost live. So as you said, coming in at the start, and even the shyness, and I guess I'll use a different example. Whenever we first started, obviously we had Dill with us, and one of the daily roundups that he did, he went around there asking everybody how they were feeling, and 95% of the people that commented said that they were nervous or they didn't really know what to expect, and they were very quiet in it. And then I caught him. I'm speaking about Alan specifically because I remember his, and I caught him on the Friday, Dill, with the camera in his face, and I was there, and he was he was a different person. 2 days later, he was a different person. But yes, the same with Marcus, how he felt and the work that he put in, and being surrounded by the people has continued since the event. And that's why I'm not going to ever force anybody to come to an event, but I know the benefit of going goes way beyond just the 4 or 5 days that we spend together. You come back with a different approach, mindset, a different relationship with yourself. It's I guess it's a difficult thing to explain unless you experience it, but how everybody shows up for the weeks and months that come after that is night and day difference from beforehand.
Yeah, and the whole experience. And I wish I was in Orlando with y'all. My wife's birthday is on the 23rd, so it just wasn't going to work. I couldn't be like, hey, sorry, honey, I'm going to be at lifting camp.
yeah, that's fair. Don't worry, there will be many more. There'll be many more, so there's absolutely no worries with that whatsoever. I'm going to go through the quick fire questions. So you may or may not remember whenever you got your second initiation, whenever you joined the crew, someone will have come and bombarded you with a list of questions.
Yeah, I remember.
Yep. We're going to go through some of those and sort of see where you're at with things. So, avocados or no?
I love avocados.
Nice,
but I can't have them right now.
No, you don't have enough calories. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a second. I don't know what your answer would be for this. What's your go-to excuse for skipping leg day?
Probably that I'm not recovered. I don't have a funny answer for that, but I'll convince myself that I need a rest day more often than probably I have hamstring sore. I feel a little.
I'll just go in and train arms instead.
Yeah,
that's
those feel fine. So my go-to excuse usually is I'm not recovered enough, and
okay,
that's never true. Never true.
Oats cooked or uncooked?
I've tried both. I'm not a big oats fan, period.
In general?
But I did like mixing them uncooked in Greek yogurt. I ended
Okay.
up doing that quite a bit.
Okay. I'll say the next
Does that
event.
count?
No, no,
All
definitely
right,
not.
damn it.
The next event, I'll make them for you. I'll make them for
All
you
right, cool. I would
uncooked,
love
and
that.
then we'll get the proper test on that.
All right, cool.
What is the most absurd health and fitness related advice you've ever received?
Man, we get a lot when you're in a public gym. Oh, holy shit. Um, That's hard for me to answer. I think my favorite one is you should quit resistance training and just move to like stretching and yoga because you're getting old and that's going to wear down your body. And just the thought of that is so contrary to science and studies that show the complete opposite. And this guy, I won't. You probably know who he is, I guess. Has shared this with many people, like Eddie, who's 76 at the gym. Yesterday, I helped him still benching 135, leg pressing, doing everything. That was the advice he was giving him too. Like, hey man, you should probably stop doing that. And that guy left, and I said, don't you dare stop lifting weights, man. Like, this is why you're here at 76, man. You're my hero. If
Yeah,
I'm still
yeah,
doing this, like the reason you're here and you're doing so well is because you've been resistance training all those years, man.
mhm,
He's like,
mhm.
okay. And he was very like, thank you. I needed
Yeah,
to hear that. I'm like, yeah, don't you dare stop doing that part of it.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that's it. That we need to quit lifting weights because our body's going to somehow break down. And
But that's
um,
unsolicited advice. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the opposite
yeah,
of what we spoke about at the start. Like you do the thing, and if someone asks you for advice, saying cool, just don't come and give it. I remember, um, probably about 2 years into training, I was on leg press and I got what I later found out to be a pressure headache. So like I had my head in the wrong place and I had this real bad headache. And anytime I like sneezed or something, I felt like my eyes were going to pop out. And it went on for like about a week. And I remember going to the doctor, and I am like, I could count on one hand the amount of times that I've been to the doctor. I'm not a person that goes to the doctor. So he obviously hadn't seen me in a while. And his advice to me was, you should probably stop going to the gym. And I was like,
yeah.
I will never be back in this office. Like, what a fucking stupid. I was only, I was maybe 28 or 29. I was like, how can you tell someone who's 28, 29 to stop going to the gym? I'm like, this motherfucker. So I've never been back to that doctor since.
Good. Yeah.
If you could only do one exercise for the rest of your life, what would you pick?
That would never happen, but like in a magical world. All right, let's be honest. It'd probably be bench press. If I
so,
had to
so
pick
my so,
one.
so my thought, like my coaching brain on this is like, I don't know how, like, what would I pick that would allow me not to look ridiculous on the other side of it? Do you know what I mean? I'm like,
You would,
yeah, like if I just only did bench press in 5 years, what am I going to look like? I don't know. Anyway,
you'd have that taco chest. That's what they call that, right?
yeah. Which leads me to the next question: tacos or sushi? If you had to pick one to eat for the rest of your life,
I love them both, but definitely tacos. And in fact, I have tacos, I think, every day right now with that
nice,
96%
nice,
ground beef. So.
nice. Good.
Yep.
That's good to have that in. And again, we'll talk about calories in a second. Would you rather do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, or 100 burpees?
Fuck burpees. Yeah, 100 push-ups all day long. Fucking hate burpees.
Oh, dude, me too.
Yeah. I
sure
did that. We all did the insanity. I'm sure everyone's tried this in their life, and that was like I was fuck Shanti.
I'm gonna put that.
I love him.
Fuck you, Shanti, and your burpees.
I love it, but that was horrible.
Yeah, I shared this story within the group, but I guess not in the podcast before. You will never catch me programming burpees because I did them for Sarah recently because she specifically asked for them because of a competition that she's doing. But I never programmed them when I was a coach on the gym floor because I always would have had to demonstrate the exercise. I'm like, I'm not willing to do one burpee. I'll just avoid anybody doing burpees so that I don't have to show them burpees. So yes, I agree. Fuck burpees on that. Right. Let's talk about where you're at right now. You mentioned calories and the inability to have avocados right now. There was a lot of resistance in this, if we're honest, initially, in bringing calories down. I think what you said to me was you wanted to maximize muscle growth for as long as possible. And I'm like, we need to cut off some body fat. Like we need to push this down a little bit. But now that you've lent into it and we're a number of weeks into a cut, talk to me about where you're at. How you feeling?
I feel really fantastic this last week. Like it takes a few weeks for the body to adjust. Before I get to that, I want to address like it may help other people, right? I was on an infinite bulk. I was a meathead. Like I just wanted to be big and eat a lot of calories. And I will give you credit for this. You didn't come in and say anything about it. You said, "How many calories are you doing?" I was like, 2,700. You're like, "All right, cool, 2,700 then." And you just watched, and then slowly you're like, "Hey, maybe 2,600." Oh, fine, all right. Maybe it's okay. Hitting that 250 mark, which for everyone out there, I'm only 5'9", so 250 is probably too big. And you just slowly brought it. You waited for me. It seemed like you waited for me to have those realizations and then asked, like, "Hey, where should I go for this?" And then you're like, "Okay, here." And then I did make one mistake on this, and it's not a mistake. You programmed me at 2,100, and I did like 1,850 that whole week. And you were like, "Yeah, I see you're fine down there." So now we're down to 2 within like one check-in. I was like, "Fuck! All right, be careful how low you go, because Ben's just gonna be like, 'Looks like you're good. Check." Um, but the first couple weeks of being under 2,000, which for me is pretty low. I know that's not low for some people. I felt miserable. It was hard, and it was well worth doing. This week, I'm like the body has adjusted. I'm still hungry, but I'm not miserable, and I'm not feeling like okay. I just am okay with being hungry, and that's really new for me. Just to be like, look, you're not going to lose all this gains you've got, because I think that's a big problem for people, right? Like, oh my God, if I cut, I'm gonna lose all this muscle and I'm gonna lose all my strength. I haven't. I know that I will, and I'm certainly not gaining strength, but I haven't lost. I'm maintaining. But I think it's keeping my protein at 220. Like that's my goal, which sucks at 2,000 calories, as you know, because no avocados, no like I'm not cooking with olive oil, no butter. Butter's out. Like I got to pull that stuff out. And I know on the podcast yesterday you said, well, you shouldn't take these foods out. I'm like, yeah, but like you start going, is this worth it?
Yeah.
This one thing is like 800 calories. That's like, or I could just cut a few things out and it's 400 calories, and I can eat again in 2 hours. So it's just decisions. So this week I was going to tell you, I know you said, hey, we'll cut through till June. Right now I'm feeling like continuing on even through June, because I feel fine. And in my head, if I'm being honest, I think I've always felt really good at like 225, and I was 236 this morning. So that's down 8 pounds since I started, but really just I'm at 4 pounds or so just in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So
Yeah.
and not that I'm also not having those wild like 3-4 pound changes. It's like a very just gradual down, maybe up a half a pound and then down. Yeah, that's where I'm at. It feels really good.
Good. You've given an insight to my coaching style. Like I almost make it your idea, so when it comes to it, there's less resistance. And that's just, I guess that's me in the conversations that we had, understanding you as a person. Some people I could just come in and I'll cut it, whereas I knew mentally where you're at and where your head was. But we're here now, and you feel good at it. But yes, definitely for anybody who's listening, if you come in under and we're in a cut, and I know that you can handle it that week, you're sure as shit getting your calories cut down to that. Like they are coming down.
Hey, that's why on the PR deadlift, you saw my comment, like, Ben, this does not mean less calories, just because I hit a new deadlift record on a deficit.
Yeah. But I guess to give you that, and this is a point from the podcast today, like, yes, you're maintaining strength, but there physically is less of you. So in a way, that's still progression. Because if we think about you pound for pound, it's still stronger. So just a perspective shift on that. And know that, when we do get down to 225, then we can start to push back up again. Like it's not that we're in this forever. And I think understanding that the timeline around that is key as well. But I'm glad that you're feeling good. I know it's a big shift, but being in the space that you feel good and still get your lifts in, and you're not going to die of starvation, as you commented on a couple of times. I think we're in.
You have to tell yourself that, like, you're not dying. You're not dying, man. You're gonna be okay.
Avocados will be back soon. Trust me. Okay, if you're describing We Hack Health to someone, what do you say?
I mention it to quite a few people and say how good it's been for me. I usually show them the Phoenix event, right? My Diamond Dallas page there, and yoga with a bunch of people in jerseys was never on my bucket list. But I always tell people, hey, when you're ready, this is something I think you should be a part of. And I talk more about the group dynamic, which I don't think I would have. I didn't think about it, right? I thought about programming and just wanting to join you guys on what you were doing. I talk about like, hey, you're going to get all these other things. You're going to get a group that's supportive. You're going to get these the mental work and the stuff you is probably the most important, right? Because the without being in a good mental place, you can't do the other stuff, or I guess you can't prioritize it. I can't explain it. It all fits together, right, like a puzzle. So I would describe it as um, something that's really going to change your life. Like it's changed my life. It helps me have direction and like just something to look forward to in not just the physical aspect, like all of it, right? So I can come. I feel like we could share anything in those calls, and you'd be like, okay, let's talk about that. And I most people, I think, when they go to a training thing or they get into this, it's just fitness, right? And you just said it. You made it my idea, but I think people have in their head like, well, they're just gonna do. You're doing these. You're gonna eat this. This is how it's gonna be, and that's it. And some people that may work, right? There's coaches out here that's their thing, and people need to just be like, hey, do this. Um, for me, and I think a lot of people, uh, I don't want to say you have to like ease into it, but you understand where I'm coming from. Those mental problems, right? Of like that day you were like, so you're gonna bulk for 2 years? I was like, that sounds really dumb. When you just say that back to me, this is probably let me think. I need to think about this. Hold on, Ben. Give me a couple days. That doesn't sound right. Um, but you understood like the mental part of it, which for me was key in getting the hey, you could have cut the calories, right? It wouldn't have changed the mental the mental issue I was having with it. Like I don't know if you call it body dysmorphia or whatever you call like wanting to be big for like okay that I mean cool if that's your thing, but I think for me it wasn't. I don't even know if it was necessarily what I wanted. It just seemed easier, right, to just say I'm bulking and I'm doing great in the gym, and you lift a lot of weight and you feel great, but I wouldn't say I was proud of the results.
I think that
No.
you said it there. Um, I wouldn't necessarily say it's easier, but you can use the bulking and getting stronger as an excuse. And I definitely think
Mm-hmm.
it has an expiry. Like you can take the piss with it, where you just actually you're no longer being efficient with the calories that you're consuming. And I think that the moving to lower calories and moving into a cut has presented a new challenge. We see, and I think we've established over the past number of weeks working together. You now lean into the challenge, even coming to the Phoenix event and knowing that you're going to be in a situation where other people are drinking and you're not going to be. Like that was a challenge in itself, and you leapt
Mm-hmm.
into it. So it's you now have more and more evidence about yourself, knowing that you can lean into the challenge and come out the other side of it. So I do think it's good to go through the challenges, and it's good to know the time frame on it and know that avocados will return soon.
I want to add to that. I think it's essential that you suck at things for a while. Like this is my new saying is like you cannot avoid the suck at what you're doing. And for that event, I had never done that. How I've gone decades of drinking and partying, and I know how to do that very well. I can fit in socially. That easy to do. Like
Yeah.
all right, but going just in a different headspace, I'm not very good at it, and that's okay. And just allowing myself to be like, yeah, of course not. It's totally new for you.
Yeah.
Same with the lifting and the calorie cut, and like now I can hit those things head on. Going, I may suck at this, but the only way to get better is to suck at it for a little bit. Like when I took my new job, hopefully they're not listening, but I didn't feel like I was very good at it at first because I had never done this video consulting in cybersecurity. After a year and a half, I feel very good at it, but there was no way for me to avoid sucking for a little bit. Just being like, so with anything, when you say lean into it, I just have come to a mental place like, okay, you're going to go, you're probably not going to be that good at it. And you got to do the reps.
Yeah. Actually, I'll plus one on that because I met with one of my first ever clients that I coached in the gym floor, a guy called Jason. So I started coaching in December 2016 and he signed up like January 2017. Another Jason, actually, ironically.
We're taking over.
Fucking hell, so many Jasons. But every time I meet him, like I think back, and it's cool for me to just sort of get him up to speed. Like he watches what I'm doing on Instagram, whatever, and he's always very supportive. And he always says it's cool for him to see the journey that I've been on. I think back, like you said about not being very good. Like whenever I started coaching, like I actually still have one of his original plans that I'll maybe share for a laugh, but I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? But that's okay. Like that's what you learn. Like I feel like for me specifically in this situation, like I learn from every single one of you guys and everybody that I've ever worked for. Like that's where the real learning comes. It's not getting your PT qualification, because you do that and then you're put in front of an actual human that has actual issues. And like, it's not just, this is how you do a fucking bench press. And like, okay, but yeah, my arms don't work, or, I have a shoulder problem. Like, oh, what page in the manual is this in? It's not. So you have to then so you have to go fucking learn. So yeah, you do have to suck at things to get good at them. Now that I'm 7.5 years in, I think I'm definitely getting there. What one thing do you know now that you wish you knew before we started?
I think the different levers you could pull in lifting, and then embracing those, right? So something shifted in me where I thought, I heard people talk about intensity, and honestly, I didn't know what that meant, right? Is that a lot of weight, or like, is that where I'm just done at the end of the lift? Or now I feel like it's how each rep is, how important each rep is. And I never did that for my life. And thankfully, I get to teach my son Tegan that. And like he's like on this row, I'm like, all right, you got to bring your, I want you to full stretch all the way out. And then when you bring it back, bring your shoulders back behind you. And then I want slow, and I want you to stretch all the way, because I would just do these for years. But on everything, like feeling the full stretch, and like, I think I told you this, like I'm starting to get a lot out of each exercise, and I never even took that into account. It was just about moving weight and like, okay, 18 sets of chest, cool, check. And I think I told you, like, I'd get an exercise that didn't work for me, and I'd be like, that's fine, because I'll just make it up. I mean, I'm doing so much chest, by the end I'm going to be spent. But I really like paying attention to each individual, like rep, even just how important that is.
Cool. Good. Any advice for anybody who is on the journey, at the start of their journey, on and off their journey?
I think consistency is key, and really staying away from perfection. Like for me, for all aspects of life, but for lifting too, right? We want to try to do the best we can. And I know I would miss a lift or miss a workout. I saw some people in the Discord today saying, well, I'm done. Work came in and I missed this and that. And like, just get back. It's going to happen. And missing a lift is not going to ruin your whole plan. In saying that, I was there, right? I missed Monday. Okay, well, Tuesday and Wednesday, I just take the week off. I'll wait till next Monday, because if I don't hit everything in this perfect order, then somehow the universe is going to collapse. So just keep showing up, consistency. That would be my one advice. And try not to worry too much about the mistakes and the misses. We don't want those to add up, but it's not the end of the world. Just get back in there.
Yeah. True.
Easier said than done.
Yes, no, and I get it. And I think that the reframe I can give from that is like, not missing one work isn't going to really progress the same way eating one salad isn't going to give you a 6-pack. That's the best way that I can reframe it.
I like that.
Before I move into any final words, I just want to sort of extend, and I want to get this across for everybody. Like obviously within the We Hack Health thing, we offer a referral scheme. So anybody who you refer and they come through, you get a free month and they get a free month. So anybody who is listening to this, who has been motivated or inspired by the words that Jason has said, whenever we're speaking, just mention his name and I'll make sure that both of you guys get a free month to sort of get started, get you introduced to the crew to sort of see what actually happens on the inside. That being said, any final words from you?
I would just say thank you, Ben, for doing this. I know you're, it's funny when you're like, well, I'm a business owner and I do all this stuff, and I feel that. I just don't see that. Like, I see someone that really cares about helping people, and that's the big difference for me. So thank you for doing hacks and dealing with a bunch of crazy people in cybersecurity and tech, and a few ego problems there, and imposter syndrome and all the crap that comes with what we do. So yeah, I would just say I wish I would have seen it more. I wish more people in the industry, not just in this industry, but all of the kind of I would call them high pressure industries, would reach out and join the group and start to understand that you need community. And you built community, right? The plan, and we already talked about this, but the plan and stuff is great, but the community, I didn't necessarily think how important that was. And man, that's everything, to feel like I'm part of something. And I didn't, as you know, I kept telling you, like, I don't feel like you're here, you're fine. That was my issue, but I needed to be there, and I needed to have everyone around to help me get to where I feel like I'm doing okay right now. Lots of work to do.
There is always
man.
work to do, but you did, like, I mean, I've said time and time again, like, credit for the work that you've put in and the work you continue to put in. And you're right. Like, the reason that you feel like I am someone who just gives a shit about everyone is because I genuinely do give a shit about everybody. Like, yes, okay, you know, I offer a service as a coach, but I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do if I didn't have people like you and everybody else within the team. Like, I can't provide the community without the people within it, which is all of you guys. And I can't give 50, 60, 70 other perspectives like you guys can. I can only give my own. So that is why you feel like I actually give a shit, because I do actually give a shit.
Yeah, you notice it for sure.
Yeah, good. But again, as I sort of started, like, thank you for how you've shown up from the start, because I realize I try and come in with as little as possible, because I know there's so many things to focus on. And I've seen it time and time again with the most successful clients that I've had is the ones that just lean in and show up and actively participate as being a part of the community, whether it's good, bad, ugly, sharing advice, sharing struggles, willingness to be vulnerable, willingness to do the work, showing up on the calls. Funny, and I'll finish on this. You specifically, the times that you don't show up on the calls, I notice. And that says a lot about the consistency and the cadence that you do show up on the calls. So just thank you for showing up, being a part of it, and obviously trusting me with your health.
100%. And the fact that you reached out and others reached out when I missed a couple calls in a row, which was for a good reason, meant the world to me. That it was noticed, and like I was like, okay, let's do this one more time. Back to sobriety. Here we go.
Good. Well, thank you so much, dude. Thanks for taking the time today, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right, thanks, Ben.
Damn.